asked for this movie? What was the point? I went to go see Madam Web today, and I'm going to preface all this by saying I did not go into this with the preconceived notion that I was going to think it was terrible. I was willing to give it a chance. I hadn't known about this film until just a few weeks ago. I think it showed up on the Regal app, or I saw some mention of it. Not even heard of this thing. I didn't watch the trailer. I saw Dakota Johnson was in it. I'm okay with her, but I'm telling you right now, she is not leading lady material. She doesn't have the charisma to carry a movie like this. Her acting, well, I'm just starting right off, aren't I, with all the bad things. There really weren't many good things at all to say about this. I'll let you guys know. The imagery that you've been seeing, and this is a bit spoilery, but the imagery you've been seeing of the chicks in the spider suits, that's bait and switch, because those things only happen in just really quick shots of events that are supposed to be in the future. The bulk of this story takes place like in 2003. Madam Web, I can't even remember her character's name. It starts with a C, I think. I can't even remember her name. She's this paramedic. She's trying to protect these 3 girls that someone is trying to kill because he can see into his future and he can see that these 3 girls are a danger to him. So Madam Web's mother had gone into this jungle in Peru. She was looking for this special spider, and something happens and involving the spider, obviously, and Madam Web, or whatever her character's name is, she ends up having these abilities to see into the future, to see different possible avenues or different things that can happen in the future. It's triggered by an event that happens to her. And she takes a bit, I mean, it was kind of interesting seeing her trying to figure out what's going on. Can she actually change these things that she's seeing? And then she gets caught up with these girls because she sees that this guy is trying to come after these girls and kill them. So she's like a protective of them. She wants to take care of them. And so they spend a lot of time running and hiding. And then they have there's like this final climactic scene that happens. This movie is a little bit less than 2 hours long. There is no post-credit scene. I had read that there was no post-credit scene. I did not stick around to see if there was going to be one. So I'm pretty sure there wasn't one. But this movie, you guys, so what this made me think of was something from the early 2000s, some made-for-TV movie. There was VFX in here, or there were some scenes of VFX in here that were just not very good. Things from 10, 20 plus years ago have held up better than some of the effects that we saw in here, especially this spider character guy. There was quite a bit wrong with this movie, and it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a primarily female cast. The characters were okay. There wasn't anything wokey in it. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. It was cringy. The dialogue wasn't very solid. There were sort of nods to the whole Peter Parker and Ben Parker storyline and everything, but that was just like little side stuff. There was no real like super big thing going on with Spider-Man in any capacity. There was other spider stuff happening. There were some shots of ridiculous superhero posturing, when the girl drops down and crouches and then flings their head up, but that was very brief. The 3 chicks in here that show up in pictures and promo shots in the spider suits, they are mostly just in regular, like they don't even have any powers. It's not even explained how they got powers in the future. You just know at some point they do. The reveal of the Madam Web costume at the end is really cringe. It looks like something off of like the CW or whatever. Anyway, they also played around with the quote, the famous quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." I knew about that before I even went into it. I had heard that they were messing around with that quote, and it's something they just kind of flipped it on its head. Like, the more responsibility you have, the more power you'll get, or something along those lines. It was cringe. The cinematography also wasn't super great in a lot of parts. There were moments, especially during actiony scenes, or let's say fight scenes, or scenes where she's seeing all these different psychic visions. When there are some actiony moments that are happening, it's very jerky and a lot of cut scenes really quick. And it's almost like they filmed it that way just so they could hide how bad the actual true cinematography would be if they were showing it to us more fully. I liked Dakota Johnson in Bad Times at El Royale. I thought she was fine in there. She was fine in Peanut Butter Falcon. I did not watch the 50 Shades movies. I have seen Suspiria, but I don't remember much about it. But she just did not. She was so bland in here. She just did not have the charisma to carry this character, to carry this film, to be the central, to be the lead of this movie. And I don't get what was the point. I don't get like where this should have been put up on streaming. I don't know why they even put it up on the big screen, because you know they spent quite a bit of money just marketing it and getting it out on the big screen. This movie's going to take a loss. If it makes any money, it's probably going to be because a bunch of people or a bunch of guys are going to go to see it just because of Sydney Sweeney, because apparently this chick named Sydney Sweeney is suddenly some sort of big hot star and everything. I've never heard of her until just recently. That movie she's in, the rom-com movie with Glenn Howell or whatever his name is, Anyone But You or whatever. That's, I think, when I first started hearing. Well, I've seen her name floating around, but I had no idea who she was, because if I ever saw her in anything before this, I didn't notice her as an actor. She's okay in here. She's all right. She's probably the most likable character of them all. Madam Web is so bland, you just kind of go, But the other two chicks who played in here, I wasn't crazy about them because they just, I don't know, like they were trying to be all with these different sort of rebellious types of personalities and snarkiness, and it didn't work very well. Oh, and they used the word hangry in here. Now, I know hangry has been around since early 1900s, apparently, and it was used, apparently, in the 90s, but that word didn't really become part of the widespread sort of vocabulary until the mid-teens, around-ish there. So to hear it showing up in this movie that's supposed to take place in 2003, I think most people had never heard of this word hangry, and it's thrown around here like it had really been a big thing back then, and it hadn't been. Also, there is a scene where they play the Britney Spears song Toxic, which was supposed to have not come out until 2004. That's the official release date of the song. Now, that song was part of an album that came out in late 2003. The events of this movie don't take place in the late fall or early winter of 2003. So they got some stuff off. That's minor. If that was all it was, that would be no big deal. But just in general, this movie is as bad as most people were expecting it was going to be before they went into it. It's just, films like this make me glad that I have a Regal Unlimited membership, because if I had paid full price for it, I would have been pissed. The biggest annoyance for me was, I guess I could say, the waste of my time in watching this. But I wanted to give it a chance because there have been times where I don't know much about a film, I don't have any sort of level of expectation about it, and I'm pleasantly surprised. And I was giving it that opportunity to pleasantly surprise me, and it did not. Your mileage may vary if you want to take the chance to watch this, but I'm not going to tell you one way or another. I'm just going to tell you how I feel about it. And unfortunately, Madam Web was just not very good. So I don't want to spend much more time talking about it. I was already on a live stream tonight where we were talking about it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. This has been a very short review because I don't have much more to say about it. So I will see you guys later. Bye.